Because in the kingdom, if your name was never the one in lights, if you weren't the pastor of the church, would you still be faithful?
We talk about being in alignment with our pastors all the time. Are you in alignment with your spouse?
If anyone would come after me, he must deny himself daily and follow me.
I've got to do ministry in a different way. I don't want to perform for him. I want to partner with him.
Leading Second Camp 2025 for church leaders and team members who lead from the middle, February 26th and 27th in Dallas, Texas. To find out more and to register, go to leadingsecondcamp.com. Welcome to the Leading Second Podcast, a space to help church leaders thrive in the second chair. The Leading Second Podcast releases every Thursday morning, so hit subscribe and share this with your team. Now let's jump into another episode for all of us who lead from the middle. Hello and welcome to the Leading Second Podcast. I'm so glad you're here and you've joined us today. If you lead from the middle in any capacity, Leading Second is for you. And if at any point you find this episode helpful, I'd encourage you to go to our website, leadingsecond.com/podcast, and download what we call the episode guide that we've created for today's episode. Feel free to use it with your team. It's great for questions and conversations if you would find that of value. And we'd love it if you'd help us, share the podcast. You can post it on social media or send it to a friend, leave ratings or reviews. All of it helps just get the message out there and move ministry forward, move the kingdom of God forward. Well, without further ado, I want to welcome Nicole Moore back to the podcast. Let's go ahead and jump into the conversation.
Well, Nicole, welcome back to the Leading Second Podcast. So glad you're joining us today.
Thank you. It's good to be with everyone.
We love you. We love your voice. I get to see you up close and personal a little more than most, but maybe for everyone who is unfamiliar with you, why don't you tell us all what you do in ministry?
Sure. I serve with Pastors Kevin and Sheila Gerald, and I have been attending their church now for 26 years, and young college student when I found them, and done a lot of things in ministry along the ride, and officially crossed over into full-time ministry with them. And now I am their Tacoma location campus pastor. So we have 4 locations, and I oversee the Tacoma one.
You said I've found my way into full-time ministry with them. I think that's the greatest impact you've had on my life. As I sat in a meeting when Pastor Kevin years ago asked you to do the job and you told him no. And as a recovering people pleaser, I thought, oh my gosh, someone just told Pastor Kevin no. And It was the right thing for your family at the time, but that's a funny story.
Yes.
Took you a minute to find your way into that role.
Totally. Well, first of all, I never had a high school summer camp experience where, you're called into ministry and there's a call of God on your life. That never happened for me. So, this was more of by trade, I'm an educator. So I was a middle school teacher for years, and I really liked my job. I really did. I loved being a teacher. I loved being in the classroom. And so I never really saw myself doing anything else. So God literally had to grab me, grab my attention and say, no, listen, girl, you're going to go in a different direction, because I just would never have done that. So some of the, there's a long history of, personal reasons why the timing was off. I think Pastor Kevin's ask was right, but the timing was off for our family. And which, by the way, is really scary, because you might've sat in that meeting and thought, oh, I can't believe someone said no to him. I had to deal with all my own internal thoughts in that moment. Am I missing it? Is he ever going to ask again? Is this the call of God on my life? And now it's never going to happen. Saying no to somebody who is such an influential and amazing leader, my pastor, was hard, but I knew it was right. So,
well, you've got a beautiful family, a healthy family who love the house of God and love ministry and love what you do as a result. So it looks like there was some great wisdom there. But all joking aside, we love you and love what you do for our church. So we're here today looking inside the second chair. This is my great research project this year. I'm just curious to sit with a lot of great leaders this year and just look at how you do your job and what has gone into that. So I hope that our tribe is enjoying a look at this over the year. If you're new to this series of conversations in this episode, check out the few that we've already done and released for the year. But let's get started. You've just told us a little bit, but tell us a little bit about how long you've been in ministry and maybe even your first ministry role. So how did it start for you?
Okay, so my grandfather was a pastor. He pastored in a Pentecostal denomination, and he did that for 40 years. And so church was always just what we do, and it was very much a family affair. My mom is number 5 out of 6 children, so there was a large family, and every one of us had some role and responsibility in a Sunday. It was just, you basically were born and raised into ministry, whether you liked it or not.
Right.
Help was needed, and the family was available. So my first role, I was thinking about this. My first role is I helped assist. Her name was Sister Godden. I helped her when I was 12 years old. We were doing children's ministry. So the kids, when my grandfather would get ready to preach, we had Sunday school, but then there was also the younger kids could get dismissed and kind of go down to the church basement, if you will. And we did at that time offer kind of like a second Sunday school experience with the flannel boards. And my job was probably why I became a teacher. I got to stand next to her and I got to help. There were these paper like images of like Joseph and Moses, and they had this little flannel thing on the back of them. And if you stuck them on the board, they stuck. So as she was telling the Bible story, I was illustrating it for her with the flannel board. So it makes me sound like a dinosaur. It's ancient, but that was my first gig in ministry, so to speak.
Ministry is so different now. If you know what flannel graph is, you've been around in ministry for a minute.
That's right.
And we just lost half the audience with that.
Look it up. Google it. It was a real thing once upon a time.
That's awesome. That's awesome. A question I'm asking everybody before we get into the important stuff. Are you on team In-N-Out or Whataburger? I'm on a personal mission to prove to the Texans that they're wrong.
That's easy. So my husband grew up in Orange County, California.
Exactly.
Hardcore In-N-Out all day long.
So
I've tasted Whataburger and I was like, this is really literally like Whataburger. Like why?
There we go. That was
my Texas friends still love me, but
that was the isolated clip I needed right there. What a burger.
What a burger. Like, yeah. I mean, I'll give them credit for their sauce choices. That's about it.
Okay. Sounds good. Sounds good. Well, diving into the second chair, inside the second chair, let me just ask you a few questions today. What is the first thing you do each morning and why do you do it?
Every morning. Well, first of all, let me give you some context. I am not a morning person. I am a person who lays in bed and looks out the window and has all kinds of thoughts running through my head about why it's such a better idea for me to stay in bed that day than it is to get out of bed. So positivity and thinking right thoughts has been something I've had to train myself to do.
Wow.
And it used to be that I would just have positive thoughts, but now I'm speaking to myself first thing in the morning. Like I might not be out of bed yet. And I'll say, God, this is the day that you have made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. I will speak out to myself all of the things that why my day is going to be amazing. And I am literally encouraging myself. And here in the Northwest, more often than not, I'm looking out the window and it's like torrential downpour rain. Right. It's another gray and cloudy day. There's nothing from the outside world that's going to motivate me in addition to getting out of bed. So I've just learned to speak life to myself. And so I do that. And then usually right after that, I'll put a podcast on. So as I'm getting ready in the morning, it's not uncommon that I have a podcast on in the morning. Sometimes I'll switch it up and just listen to the Bible, but I'm filling my I'm feeling, again, because my thoughts want to gravitate towards why it's a bad idea for me to even start my day. I need to get somebody else's inspiration to come into me. And my husband actually jokes around a little bit. He's like, oh, okay, so you're spending your morning hanging out with your fellas again. Cause they're usually guys that I listen to on podcasts. He's like, and he knows, like, that's a good thing for him that I have these other men in my life that are speaking good things to me. So that's pretty much how I start my day.
You know, the gray in the Northwest is real. I just have to acknowledge this. You don't realize it, I think, at times when you grow up here, but we recently just had some people from out of town in town here. You know, we're used to going places, but when they come here and they start complaining about it, you realize, yeah, it is a little bit gray here.
Yeah.
it's a real factor.
I've lived here my entire life. I don't really know any different, but I've learned too that around, March, I'm over it, and I need sunshine, and I got to go find it somewhere, because it doesn't rain every day per se. It's just gray. Yeah. I think that's really the part that can get, help make you moody.
Okay. What is the best rhythm or habit that you have in your life right now?
I would say it's prayer. And that sounds, very spiritual, but it's very much a reality for me. I would not classify the early part of my journey as one as being like a prayerful person. Now, when it comes to like knowing it's a spiritual discipline and I need to practice it, 1,000% yes. Okay. I know I need to do this. But prayer has now become so much a part of the integral part of who I am. I mean, I think about 1 Thessalonians 5 talks about pray without ceasing. And I always thought, who could do that all day? There's stuff that has to get done. You can just pray all day, but the reality is you can. And what I mean by that is I throughout my day, circumstances are going to change quickly. And it can go from I've got my own agenda to I get a phone call that someone's in trouble in the church and they need help. I'm praying. I'm driving down the street in my car and I see a person on the side of the road and I'm observing them and they look like they're in a tough situation. I'm whispering something. God, I don't know what their story is. I saw this little high school girl. I live by a high school. I saw a high school girl walk into school the other day and I was just on my way to work. And I could tell by the way she was dressed and carried her person and her body language, insecurity was a problem. And I just began interceding. I'm like, God, if insecurity is a problem, if she's feeling anxiety and anxious, God, if she doesn't know her place in the world, I'm praying for her right now. I don't know who she is, but you know who she is. And prayer has just become this habit for me that it's just instantaneous. It's like, beautiful. I had a situation happen yesterday where I was just frustrated with something at the church, in an interaction I had with a staff member, and my old person would have wanted to dialogue about that. Like, I got to get this off my chest. I need to have this conversation. And my new person would now just say, God, I don't know what's going on, but you do. And here's what I'm facing. And here's where I need your help. And I just feel like there's just this intimacy that I have with the Father now of just being mindful that there are needs all around us and that God is activated by our prayers. I love it's old school King James roots, but James 5 says that the effectual fervent prayer of a righteous man availeth much.
That's right.
And I'm like, effectual, fervent prayer, like God, it avails much, meaning that God is waiting on our prayer more often than not to just move and to be activated. And for me right now, that is it. I think I started this journey, if I'm honest, it came as a result of I have 3 children. And when they first started driving cars, I never prayed more than in my entire life. Praying while I'm teaching them, praying the first time they drive this motorized vehicle away from your house, you're thinking, oh God, not only could they hurt themselves, but they could hurt other people and they need you, like badly need you. And it kind of started there. Then I'm like, well, my mind began expanding beyond just what my family needs are, but how could I just be available to God and go to him instead of thinking that I can take care of all of it by myself.
Beautifully said. And you just gave me severe anxiety. I am so petrified for that.
Your day's coming. Your day is coming for Zane.
We have a girl who is 3 years away from turning 16, and the car that she'll probably drive is in our driveway right now. And I just thought, oh my gosh, this is getting way too real. Anyways, okay, what is a key verse of scripture, a thought from the word that's speaking to you right now as it pertains to your journey in leadership specifically?
Sure. Well, I have so many, but I think it goes back to me. One that stood out to me the most, I guess, maybe in my journey is in Ephesians about how God, I'm not going to quote it scripture and verse. There's two of them, but it's how, that God will do exceedingly abundantly more than you ask or can even imagine according to the power that's at work within you. And I have seen the power of God work in my life in me and through me for my personal life, but then also for the church in exceedingly and abundantly ways, meaning that sometimes I don't even ask him for things and he gives me things I don't even ask for, but he knows that I love them, or he knows that they would mean something to me, or he's made a way, ahead of time. So that one means a lot to me. And then I just have on my wall too, let us not become weary in doing well. For if we continue to sow the seed at the proper time, we will reap if we don't give up. And I think that one's on my wall in my office, because there is the real shot that weariness and feelings of I can't do this are very real for me, that I fight often. And the load, when it gets heavy, I need to have something in front of me that says, do not become weary. Do not become weary, Nicole. The circumstances are going to change from day to day. And if you will continue to sow that seed, then you will reap a harvest. And then the part of that verse that really ministers to me is do not give up. Do not give up. I mean, I have in my personality, I can be real all or nothing. Sometimes I'm like, it's all going to work or nothing is working. And the reality is it's not that extreme, but my interpretation and perspective can be that extreme about scenarios, about the church. I'm like, last 2 weekends ago, we had beautiful weather here in the Northwest, and my weekly attendance dropped by 23%. Here we go. We've got this service I'm trying to build, the second service, and I'm doing all these things. No one's showing up. All is lost. Here we go. Why'd we make this decision? I mean, I'm just giving you internal dialogue of Nicole's spiraling thoughts and my human, just my humanity, I guess you could just call it. And I need that word. I need to be reminded, do not get weary in doing well, Nicole, because you will reap the fruit of this. So that's really been happening to me.
Going off script for a minute, what is a warning sign to you that you might be becoming weary? I think we need to watch for our tells. What would yours be where you start to perk up and go, I think I need to recharge here. I'm getting a little weary right now. What do you look for?
For me, criticism is on hyperdrive.
Okay.
Not only can I not do anything right, no one else around me can do anything right either. So that's a problem. When I become hypercritical, and when I go hypercritical, and then from there, I go into when I start to feel like things are spinning out of control. For me, that looks like I'm very ordered and pretty structured administratively. And when I start to get scattered, and I know then something's off with me. I'm scattered, I'm hypercritical, and I can even go to the place where I start to numb out. And I very much care. My person is very much a lot of my ministry and my personality comes from the deep care I have from individuals and people and for progress and all the things. And when I stop caring and get more flippant in my attitude about things, I know that burnout's real close and that it's time for a reset and a recharge. And I need to do some real soul searching on where am I at? What am I doing? And get back on track.
Well said. Well said. One more thing I think I'm looking for in these interviews on a spiritual note, in the word and such. You've done a great job at laying that foundation for us already. But let's talk about navigating life under authority. That is the privilege of a second chair leader, is we are given great authority, but we navigate life under authority. So is there a place in the word that you go to as a handle for the moments where maybe you're struggling in that in some way, or you just need to grab onto that? Where do you go?
Hebrews 13. And I wrote this down. It says, have confidence in your leaders and submit to their authority, because they keep watch over you as those who must give an account, and do this so that their work will be a joy and not a burden. Because if it's a burden, that would be of no benefit to you. Okay. So I would love to just take a moment and break a couple things down here. Having confidence in your leaders and submitting to their authority. I'd like to just talk about that word submission for a moment, because I grew up in a church world where that became a very dirty word. That was an abuse. There was an over abuse of submission to authority, not just between men and women and wives and all of that, but also in church leadership, especially in the denomination that we were a part of, meaning that you didn't question it. Like, clearly I've gotten over it because I told Pastor Kevin no on the first time he asked me for this job. So, but in the old school thinking, you never tell your leaders no on everything, on anything. True submission to their authority is that you do whatever they say in obedience to whatever they ask of you. And that was so heavily abused. And so now I think we've kind of swung the pendulum, and we're kind of almost afraid to even say that word, submission to authority. And yet at the end of the day, I think that's a word that needs to be resurrected a bit, especially for leaders that are younger leaders. You don't know everything. You think you know why things are the way they are. You think you think you can assess your leader and kind of, put them in a box or whatever it is. Maybe you're frustrated that the leader's choosing something that you wouldn't choose. And because of that choice, your job just got harder. Happens all the time, right? Yep. And I think not only do you have to first do a fruit check and say, am I fully submitted to this person's authority? Have I accepted that there are things I don't know? Have I accepted that this leader's track record and their history has proven time and time again that they know what they're doing? So I'm not in an situation. I'm in a situation where I have a great leader. That leader just does things differently than I would do. Like Pastor Kevin and I are very different people. We have different personalities. We have to work really hard. I have to work really hard at sometimes being in alignment with him, because I wouldn't do it that way. How many times have you heard that in your head? Well, if I was in charge, I sure wouldn't be doing. But armchair quarterbacking's easy. It's easy to say, oh, I wouldn't do it that way. I think remembering too that also freeing yourself from the fact that they give the account. Pastor Kevin gives the account for Champion Center in heaven someday. I give an account for the small role that I'm stewarding under his authority and his leadership, but I don't give an account for the direction of the church. That's right. I don't give an account for the decision that's made, that I just would do it differently, so to speak. And I think that when you get to that place of recognizing I'm not giving an account for this, my job is to support. Now that I lead people, I think to myself, I would really like it if more people would read this scripture when I'm in charge. I would really like more people to just trust, and I know what I'm talking about, and I need you to just get on board. And could you do that without grumbling? And could you do that without complaining? And could you do that without kicking and screaming? So now that my energy doesn't have to go over to you and get you back into alignment, so that then this whole ship can move forward. And I think, man, I don't want to be that person for my senior pastor, for my leader, that people have been for me, because it just takes so much tremendous energy and really robs me of the joy of ministry. And if I've got an opportunity to not do that for my senior leader, I'm taking it every day.
Beautiful. I'll have someone anonymously send this to all of your team and staff, and all they can hear exactly what you said right there. It'll be great.
Well, but isn't that the problem?
It's so true.
As a pastor, my senior leader's not like, hey, you all need to have confidence in me, submit to my authority. I keep watch. I mean, that's the part of the problem with the scripture. And that's why also the beauty of a second chair leader. So maybe if I could just say that right now, if you're a second chair leader, you should be saying that on behalf of the senior leader who can't say that for themselves without sounding self-serving,
Beautiful. Beautiful. Okay. So here's an interesting question that I always like to set up. My question is, what do you hope your pastor would say about you? So, Jesus looked at his disciples, is it Matthew 16, and said, what do they say about me? What do you say about me? This is not a people-pleasing question. This is an assessment question. So if our leaders were to assess us, what would you hope your pastor would say about the impact you've had on the church and the team?
I hope he would say that I served well. I hope that he would say that I loved well, that having spent time under my leadership, that people were stronger, that people were more, that they were more aligned with their purpose, that I would it would mean the world to me. Let's say I moved on from this role. It would mean the world to me to have him look back and say, because of you and the way you led, the house of God is stronger, and you moved this house forward in a way that it wasn't before you took off this role. That would mean everything to me.
Well said. Well said. Here's a fun one. If you could stop doing something today, I think we pick up a lot of things in ministry, but some of the most powerful words we say are no. So if you could stop doing something today, what would that be and why?
Answering emails. I hate email. I just hate it. I hate email. Email is like the laundry. Just when you think you got it all clean, the clothes that are on your back, you're going to have to wash it, and you're never done. You're never, ever done. And I think that's what's daunting about emails. I also, because I have a high sense of responsibility, I live in a chronic state of just like feeling like I'm letting people down, because the reality is I don't have all day, like some administrative people in our world, to just sit on their computers and answer every email that comes in the second it comes in. I'm like literally, I'm dealing with people's emotions, and I've got this and a wonderful part of ministry that I'm working through, and all the while the emails are just.
I know you got the pile at the end of the day. It's
and some of my emails are just like FYI. It's kind of like, I'm sometimes I feel like I'm the mama in the house, and they're like, Mom, you should know this. Mom, you should know this. And so it's just the emails. Like, yes, I need to have an awareness. I don't have a personal assistant. And I if I ever get one, that's going to be the first thing that person does, is answer all my emails and only forward to me the things that I actually like. I'm going to have them put it all in a Google Doc and tell me what I need to know. And then what I actually have to answer to, but I don't want to ever answer another email again in my life.
Amen and amen. When you have a disagreement or difference of opinion with, maybe another person on the team, a leader, a team member,
sure,
what do you tell yourself to keep alignment while you're working through the issue? So we all have to go through the tunnel of confrontation. We all have to come to the table of truth, whatever analogy you want to use to that. We're going to have hard conversations. But there's a script going in the back of our minds that I think keeps us in alignment while we're working through that. What are you telling you in those moments?
I tell myself that there's a lot of things I don't know about that situation. I used to rush in with judgment and think I knew. And over the years, what I have discovered in having conversations, hard disagreements, whatever you want to call them, is that there's a perspective that other person has that I don't. And that oftentimes I'm wrong in my judgment or assessment of a situation simply because I didn't have all the facts. I didn't have all the information. I didn't have context. For instance, like disagreement, disappointment. I don't know. I had a staff member that was like, really late, like to work, and I was annoyed by that. And so I'm like, hey, where are you? No conversation, no communication, nothing, just fell off the face of the earth. I'm like, so now I'm not only just irritated that you're late, I'm irritated that you're not communicating about why you're late. And then later I found out there was serious things happening in their family that were like the 911 had been called. There was children involved at home, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, Nicole, put yourself in their shoes. If life's at stake, so to speak, in your house that morning with children, are you thinking about texting your boss and saying, hey, yo, I'm going to be late? No, you have something happening over here that's so intense. And so it was humbling for me. And to the point that I could have been more supportive. And so like, it's changed me. For example, like now, if the staff member's late, I don't say like, where are you? Confrontive. I ask, is everything okay? That's my first question. Is everything okay? So I think leading, when I have when I don't know things, I can lead with my own judgment, especially with differences of opinions, whether that's my senior leader or whether it's the people that I work with. We don't always agree on how we should do something. In fact, I am going through that also right now, where there's a team member who is leading a department and they want to make a change. And I have advised against the change, but I also I have advised against it and given my reasons why I don't think it's a good idea. Is their decision going to be detrimental to the whole organization? No. Is their decision potentially going to fail? It could. And if it did, would it be detrimental to the organization? No. I have to then reserve my own opinion in that moment and say, look, I've offered to you suggestions. If you really feel strongly about this, they need moments where they're going to like go ahead, make decisions. What if I'm wrong? Maybe it's going to be the best thing we've ever done. Just because I can't see that and I can't really get on board with their perspective doesn't mean that my way is just the right way. And I think I've had to really learn to take that in. But you have to do it within the context of what I just described. It would be irresponsible of me to just like, well, it's your decision and hope it doesn't come back to bite you, and then have it cost too much in our organization. So I think you've got to know when you can let those go. But at the end of the day, man, there's just, you don't know. You don't know what the whole situation is.
There's a lot of wisdom there. And I guess let me just piggyback on something really fast. I think that considering in advance how people experience us is really important as leaders. I sadly do not do this as often as I need to. We all miss the mark on this, but you just talked to us about how you showed up as a staff member. It wasn't, where are you? Is everything okay? I guess where I'm thinking of is I was recently at a funeral, and it had been a minute since I'd been to a funeral of someone close, and it hit me. What's the natural question you ask everybody when you see them for the first time is, how are you? Well, at a funeral, that's an odd question that's going to get you a lot of stares. Well, to be honest, we're all hurting a little bit today. So Lindsay and I, we talked about it walking into the room. She goes, remember, it's not how are you? It's good to see you today. Mm-hmm. And just my presence could serve to create anxiety in people, or it could serve to create peace in people. And I just think leaders think about that. We're self-aware, when we walk into rooms. Wouldn't you agree? I think that's an important dynamic that I think sadly I've rushed past too many times.
I also think too, Pastor Kevin's been talking a lot to me about this, and that is you underestimate the weight of your words. Yeah. You live in your own head, and I'm annoyed. So, hey, why aren't you here? Get here on time. You need to be here on time. Let's just say a simple example like that, right? To me, it's like, I've said it, I've moved on with my day. To the person receiving it, she's mad at me. She's upset with me. I mean, I've had follow-up texts. Is everything okay? Are we okay? Is everything good? And I'm like, you were late. I said you were late. Don't be late. Let's move on with but I'm not taking into consideration how my words are being felt by someone else. Because then what I often do is then play a little like a gymnastics in my mind. I'm like, okay, when I respond to a text, or if I'm frustrated, or there's a disagreement, or I'm responding in an email, I now think to myself, if Pastor Kevin responded that way to me, how would that make me feel? What other things are going to now be called into question when at the end of the day, I'm just thinking about the response in the moment. Yeah. But when you're leading, you're not just responding in the moment. You are now everything else about who they are as a person, how they're leading, what you think about all these other things. Conversations are actually brought into something that seems so simple in your mind. And it's gotten me into some trouble lately, honestly, in that I've just massively underestimated the weight of my words. Wow. and just kind of moved on. So good enough wisdom said about that. I just be mindful of it, I guess.
Yes. Mindfulness and self-awareness is going to go a long way for us. I started you off today by asking what the first thing you do in the day. Let me land the plane by asking you this. If you were to look back at a day and call it a success, what was the most important thing you did that day?
Well, a couple things. I have a commitment to myself on certain things that I consider my non-negotiables during a day. Like, again, I mentioned email, which is funny, but there are certain things that I will not allow myself to put my head down on my pillow till I know I've crossed them off the list, so to speak. And that could be a commitment to a person. It changes. It's not like I have any one particular thing, but I am very, it's very been helpful to me to map out my week in advance. So on Sunday nights, I spend about an hour or so before the week starts, and I have my entire calendar. I have an electronic calendar that's really like the Bible. It tells me if it's on the electronic calendar, it's happening. I transfer all of that into a paper calendar so that because there's something, and the teacher in me knows that when you take it from your eyes and your head and you use a hand and write things down, you internalize it in a different way. And my visibility on my week is better. And I have certain things that I've written down that I know are my priorities. I have my top 3 priorities, and those things have to be accomplished, or other people's world is going to be difficult if I don't do my part in order to help that progress. So I think for me, it comes back to stewardship. Did I steward well the role that was entrusted to me? I think, and that on a detailed level is something like that. Did I give myself permission to procrastinate that one more day, or did I hold myself accountable towards answering an email, answering a text? Because those things just come flying at you. You're in a 1-hour meeting and you got 20 people you have to respond to. Obviously, you have some picking and choosing to do, but I think at the end of the day, I can feel confident and feel great in my day because I know that I've served people well, that I've given them the best I could give. I still might disappoint people because they wanted more than I could give, but did I give what I knew I had the capacity to give, and what I knew I knew was a priority in the scope of what they maybe don't know about everything that I'm entrusted to in that given day. So kind of is not really, it's more reflective for me, I guess. Did I do well? I hate people waiting on me for anything.
Yep.
You know, that's hard for me. I don't want the progress, the forward advancement of the church or the organization. If that's held up because I haven't responded to something or given input on something, that bothers me. And so those are the things that I really work on to try to make happen. Yeah.
Well, you are brilliant, my friend. Thank you for some wisdom today. I'm so glad you said yes all those years ago. After you said no, you said yes, and we're glad you did.
Well, I appreciate that. I really do. It's been wonderful. Thank you for the opportunity just to share a little bit of my life and also for the Leading Second tribe in general. What a blessing, Brandon. You said yes to, and it hasn't always been easy. And I admire the work that you and Lindsay have done, and having Hayden and Cheyenne alongside of you. You've created a space for some conversations and some support that second chair leaders could be aimless without. So thank you. Really, really appreciate you for that. Thank you. Absolutely.
Let's keep going. Thank you, my friend.
It is our honor to serve churches and leaders across the globe. We equip ministry leaders with the coaching, events, and resources needed to embrace their calling, get it right with their pastor, and lead in an uncommon way. Visit our website, leadingsecond.com, to learn how we can come alongside you as you lead from the middle, from the second chair, for the second chair.